Starting on the left side of the screen, that means they get the first pick and the first ban. Now, normally we're seeing things like Carnino, Susano, but Osiris has recently risen to prominence in a lot of people's minds, not just in solo, but actually seen him in the jungle as well.
A little bit in the jungle, but still mostly solo. We're not trying to get too crazy out here to start the day, I suppose. But I like this ban from SPL Gatekeepers. This is a classic throwaway ban. It's not something that is first pick material necessarily, but they want to get something that usually is banned away, like Fafnir or something like that. So they throw away a ban that is good and that Flashpoint could pick up right away, but might not, just to get themselves an advantage in the picks and bans.
Just a little annoying. That's kind of Osiris in a nutshell. Yeah, He's just a little annoying, right? Yeah. So you take him off the board. Cirquette taken away by Flashpoint, while we see Bologna by SPL Gatekeepers. Both of these bans kind of fit the, well, you're kind of annoying, not really top pick, top ban. So I'm really eager to see what direction SPL want to go in, or Gatekeepers want to go in.
I mean, they want to go to the SPL without a doubt, but they're just banning away those solo laners, keeping Flashpoint solo away from these aggressive warrior styles. And I like this decision because, again, Flashpoint had some roster changes. Aquarius moving off of Flashpoint now, and so when you've got a new solo laner in that role, a lot of times you've only got a couple gods that you want to play, and if they hear that, you know, he only likes to play Osiris Bologna, why not just ban those two away and see what else he's got? And
also, those are kind of very standard lane opponents for the solo lane. And like I said before, Gatekeepers aren't really known for their standard play. You will play the Vamana at a very high level, but in general likes to flex around. So I'm curious to see what nonsense he pulls out, if any. Whereas at the beginning, well, it's not quite nonsense. It's Kernanos.
Kernanos, that's
right. I tried to make it work.
Day to remember there, and this is a guy who had a phenomenal showing at the Gauntlet LAN, and so you know he's ready to go in terms of picking this high-tier character that everyone is picking and banning consistently near the top and trying to make it work as a carry.
Yeah, he's really powerful. A lot of people start to point to the first ability, the changing of the seasons, because he has 4. That's not the powerful part for me. For me, it's all about the ultimate. 2 full seconds of crowd control with no diminishing returns because it's a unique CC. That's really the potent part about it. It can disrupt what a lot of people want to do across the way, like via Hunt Bats or other characters that really try to run the team fight. So I think Carnino's strong in that regard. Fafnir and Terra across the way, 2 Guardians.
Yeah, I like this for Flashpoint, taking away the 2 priority Guardians that most teams want to pick up in that support role, and so obviously that Terra is most likely going to be going to solo. I suppose it could be Fafnir, but Fafnir solo, while great on paper, as soon as the solo laner realizes they can just stand in front and body block that hammer, your clear goes out the window, and it all of a sudden is much, much harder to play that lane.
With that in mind, you're taking a lot of damage from that? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, no one's worried about that 100 damage from the hammer in the solo lane.
A lot of people should be worried about the Susano, though. I think he has some of the biggest lockdown potential in the game right now. The pull, the ability to chase you down if you're not controlled, and so he'll be the jungler of choice for Flashpoint. Most likely, I don't know if we're going to see him in the hunter role like Warchi pulled out yesterday.
I don't know. I love this pick for Flashpoint. Mirage and Shadowq, the 2 remaining members from last season for Flashpoint. So just sticking to what makes them good. Immediately in their top 3 picks, they pick for Shadowq and Mirage with that Fafnir and the Susano. Susano, one of Mirage's best characters, took a nerf recently. Seems to not really matter too much. He's still been dominant. Really like this draft so far for Flashpoint. But on the other hand, SPL Gatekeepers has 3 highly prioritized picks in their specific roles. That's probably going to be Chunga in the jungle for Skilladon, and then Neilma on Amaterasu for support. That's a lot of mobility. It's a lot of characters that are hard to lock down. And of course, that Amaterasu is going to be providing mobility to the rest of the team as well. Both teams looking pretty strong on drafts, but SPL Gatekeepers, their draft is just full of gods that teams are saying, we don't want to give up any of them, let alone 3.
I like the ambiguity coming out from the Gatekeepers. You kind of put Amaterasu in the hands of Neilma, but Flashpoint aren't really sold on that as they ban out the Khepri as well. So Amaterasu can go both solo and support. If she does wind up support, we need to see a lot more crowd control across the way, specifically in that short lane, because she has a fantastic initiation. She has fantastic pretty good peel when it comes to the silence and some really strong stuff that comes with the aura, but she lacks that crowd control that's kind of really necessary in a team composition. So we'll see where Gatekeepers go with their remaining 2 selections. Hou Yi, the hunter of choice for Flashpoint.
I like this selection. Hou Yi was basically the matchup up against Kernanos that people were playing at LAN, and it clearly Kernanos still can get the better end of that, but from what I understand, that's a pretty skill-dependent matchup, so you're not giving yourself a bad matchup to start off the lane with. You're at least giving yourself a shot to go up against probably the best hunter right now.
Soul will be the choice. or likely the mid lane here.
Yeah.
For the SPL Gatekeepers, Kurnanos the hunter, so Soul kind of has to go in that mid lane, which I think is her desired role now. The god has had some changes, nerfs, if you will, and there's Kiki's Vamana, so we will see the Amaterasu support. But as I mentioned before, not a lot of crowd control from the front line.
No, but there is a lot of counter initiation potential here. I mean, Amaterasu and Chang'e both excel at that counter initiation sort of style. SPL Gatekeepers are trying to get an early lead and then push it via towers, but they also have that late game. I mean, they've got Soul Kernados. I mean, that's plenty of late game. Chang'e in the late game is pretty scary as well. These two early game warriors there to help out a little bit. Amaterasu transforms into a little bit more early game when she's played support, not so much solo, but her clear isn't so important when she's played support. I like this balanced draft so far from Gatekeepers.
All about balance for SPLG. Flashpoint, on the other hand, they've got some spicy picks themselves. Shout out to Nox. We'll get right into our first game of our relegations here. SPL Gatekeepers, as you said, you mentioned them a lot, but I want to talk about this Nox for Sheikah. So, introducing your members on Flashpoint, Dante LaFargo, Sops, and Sheikah are three players that you might be less familiar with. Sheikah, however, has definitely made a name for himself on the lower ends of SMITE competitive. You can see him in the Challenger League and some of those leagues as well. And he's proven to be a relatively strong mid laner. What's your take on this Nox selection?
Nox, I don't know. It's going to be really difficult to lock down Skeleton with that, 2-1 combination. Even harder to lock down Venenu with that extra movement speed from the Disapparate. Pretty risky pick here, I would say, for Sheikah. There is a good amount of setup for him, though, between the Terra, the Fafnir, and that Susano. Of course, Hu Yi having a stun as well. So there's plenty of setup, and that's usually what you're looking for when it comes to this Nox selection. But I don't know, a lot of additional movement speed, even just with Nilma there having that additional movement speed aura, that means that it's going to be difficult to lock down anybody that's near Nilma with that 2-1 combo that Nox likes to try and pull off. So Sheikah really saying that he trusts in his own mechanics to not mess those up.
Oh, Nilma, I like the try. But a strong move from ShadowQ, saving that hammer for the stun, not the damage confirm on the minion camp right there. Confirmed. Purple goes to Flashpoint.
And that's important because Sops messed up that bounce. That should have been an easy triple bounce on that side. The order side purple buff, very easy to triple bounce with Hu Yi when you pin it between the outside there and that rock that you can see the data member is right. Sops messed it up. He only got one shot of that ricochet off, so it was up to ShadowQ to save it, and he did so. That veteran coming through.
Right away, you can see SPL Gatekeepers off to a little bit of a bigger start than Flashpoint, and that's because of their ability to hit the jungle correctly. Oracles are going to go ahead and get split down the middle. Nice shot out from SPL one more time, but Skeleton and Venenu, they controlled this mid lane infinitely so off of that first push. The Chang'e and the Soul, that's kind of why, that's not the entire reason why Soul is selected, but it's a big part of why Venenu chose to go the Sun God.
Yeah, she has pretty decent clear in the early game. It's not great, and it's not great damage either right away, but as soon as you start hitting that level 7 mark where you're maxing out that Stellar Burst, your clear becomes great, your poke becomes even better, and anytime you've got two ranged characters in the mid lane, that's one of the reasons why Chang'e is so potent right now in jungle, is because those little auto trades that you end up doing with the mid and jungle, you always win when you've got two long-range auto attackers up against one in a melee. So that's why you see SPL Gatekeepers be able to step up so easily in that matchup.
One thing I want to point out about these guys that I think is funny is SPL Gatekeepers are a really strong. Their coach Kabam is a really big deal here, and that's what their tag is going to be, actually, Kabam. I really like the shout out to the coach on their gamer tag.
Yeah, Kabam definitely a big part of this team. Coaches are starting to become more and more prevalent here in the SMITE Pro League, and those teams trying to get into the SMITE Pro League, and I know these guys really appreciated what he did for them during the Gauntlet land, trying to keep them focused, and also their picks and bans, because like you mentioned, I mean, this is a team that likes to pick some weird stuff, and Kabam isn't one of those guys who hears something strange and says, no, that's never going to work. We got to stick to the meta. He's always willing to experiment, and it fits very nicely with this roster that SPL Gatekeepers has.
And I think that's key to being a successful team. Now, we saw Eager, obviously, Divios and DJ Pernicus went different directions, but when you look at the teams that have been successful, Eager, Energy, and even Obey to a certain extent, right? There is a little bit, now I'm not saying you just pick weird for weird's sake, but there's definitely a little bit of creativity and strategy that's necessary. You can't blindly follow the meta and just pick the default gods any longer, Ryan. I really think you have to really have some ideas of your own in order to be the top of the crop.
I think the word I want to use is there's no sense of complacency with the meta gods. There's no,
Right.
they don't feel a need to just say, yeah, you know, everyone's picking XYZ, so we'll just stick to XYZ too. There's always a willingness to experiment, and that's definitely a sign of a top team.
Look at this play by SPL Gatekeepers. Kiki goes through the tower knowing that his teammates are going to be making the invade on the right side of the map. So he goes, proxy farms the wave, so he's here and present. Skeleton gets knocked up and knocked down. First blood for Flashpoint as Mirage puts him down. Kiki now surrounded by 4 players. He's got to pop into the ultimate and he'll walk back while Sops takes the solo kill on the left side of the map. 1v2, taking him down. Niroma trying to find the kill.
Sops doesn't have the jump, I don't think, but Neilma's still gonna let it go, so Sops gets away with that 2v1 kill. 2 quick kills there for Flashpoint, and even though that ultimate from Sheikah was off the mark, despite the knockup coming through from Mirage, it was that Siphon Darkness root combination that really set that kill up on a Skeleton, who used the Purification Beats a little bit too late, still took that damage, and then burned his 2 on top of it. Good chase down between Dante LaFargo and Mirage to pop that Terra's Blessing ultimate and chase down that Chang'e, knowing that she had no defensive options left.
I know that Kiki loves this Vamana, but one of my issues with Vamana is the lack of control that he brings. He's very aggressive. He can dive your backline and really wreak havoc, but in that scenario right there, had he been virtually any other character, if he's playing a Hercules or somebody with some sort of control, he maybe saves Skeleton in that instance, but he sticks with the aggressive selection of Vamana, and we'll see if it pays off as the game gets later. Already down, maybe 500, even less. So the 2 kills for Flashpoint, not really too impactful here in our first game of relegations.
I understand where you're coming from in terms of the lack of control that not only Vamana has, but the overall roster of
Right.
SPL Gatekeepers has in this draft, but I like the aggressive warrior into the Terra solo lane because Kiki's going to be able to proxy farm just like he did before that speed buff invade, start to get a little bit of a lead there, poke down Dante's tower, and then start to rotate and make a big impact because Vamana is right up there with Osiris and Bologna in terms of warriors that I don't want to see in the middle lane pre-20 minutes because they just dominate mages. Going to be very difficult for Sheikah to get away from Kiki.
I mean, the joke is with Osiris, Stop's waiting here to look for data, remember. The joke is with Osiris is that he kind of just presses W and walks towards you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually Vamana's kit. He charges towards you, he ults, and then he just walks towards you. And so he just winds up being this beast, and I think Vamana really works well in this, I guess I'll call this mini item meta where you go Mark of the Vanguard into the Mystical Mail. Vamana has always done very well with Mystical Mail because his presence alone can really zone.
Very difficult to peel the character is the big thing for me. Just how do you get away from a character that has a very fast dash, one of the highest movement speeds in the game, a long-range slow, and a giant AoE damage nuke basically in the 2. I mean, it's impossible to get away from him. And then if he gets CC'd, he just turns into a giant baby and stomps on you anyways. And that's what makes him so potent is that even in the later stages of the game, you have to play it a little bit differently because you can't just turn into the Colossal Fury and stomp around because you just get killed because you don't have any escape. But very, very mobile warrior that can be difficult to lock down in the later stages.
Yeah, you can see he's done with his boomerang here. That's where he's going to get a lot of his clear and the damage, of course. That long-range slow is so powerful. You mentioned it earlier. And we'll see how it transitions now. He's he's getting up there, and he's certainly going to be able to make an impact soon. 7 minutes on the clock here. Curious as to when we're going to see a Gold Fury push. SPL Gatekeepers have a lot of tools to take down the Gold Fury nice and early, but they don't have a lot of tools to zone the opposition out. So I think we need to see a team fight before we actually see the go for it.
I don't disagree with you there. I mean, Skeleton can do a nice job of zoning with that Waxing Moon, but that's basically it. Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that they have a ton of objective damage, even in the early stages. Soul, in terms of burning towers and Gold Furies and things of that nature, her passive is phenomenal at that, gaining extra attack speed and magical power with each auto attack that she does. And so she can burn those very quickly, especially with her recent buffs where her ultimate now does more damage after consecutive hits. It used to be a very low damage number after consecutive hits, but now it's up a little bit more. It means that you can use that supernova to just burn down something like a Gold Fury very, very quickly if you catch a team sleeping.
Right here, nobody's sleeping. A lot of noise going on near those oracles. Ultimately do wind up in the direction of SPL Gatekeepers. So the free vision on the left side does go to the blue team. Flashpoint currently have little bit of a lead, but I think this is no control is in either direction. Sob seems to be having the upper hand here in the long lane, about half a level above Day to remember, but neither of these characters really here are too concerned at the moment. I think you're looking, once they hit level 12, level 13, for these guys to really go off.
Either way, SPL Gatekeepers is totally willing to just play this one slow. Like I mentioned, they have the opportunity to get an early lead with the double warriors and try and push that, but if that doesn't go according to plan, they've got 2 late-game carry options available to them between Sol and Karanos and Chang'e. They've got 3, actually, the more I think about it. So the SPL Gatekeepers are totally willing to take this to the late game, whereas Flashpoint, what are their late-game options? I mean, they've got 2 frontliners in the late game. Nox brings good damage in the late game, but it's difficult to confirm it because everyone's going to have beads and Aegis.
Sure.
And then Shadow Q is really good in the late game as the Fafnir, providing that AoE coerce and bringing good damage, especially with the Sunder that he's picked up. But I don't know. Flashpoint's roster just doesn't hold up to the late game damage of SPL Gatekeepers.
I love this Sunder selection. I'm glad you brought it up by Shadow Q here. We'll discuss it in a moment as the Gold Fury is currently being flirted with. But as soon as Flashpoint show up, SPL Gatekeepers realize they don't have the window they thought they did. Yesterday, we actually saw a Bacchus player get completely just abused because of the lack of crowd control on him. Now, sure, Shadow Q on the Fafnir does have the ultimate, which is a big difference, but there's no threat on the side of SPL Gatekeepers. There's no Ares, there's no... Honestly, it's kind of just Skilladon and Nirma. So Shadow Q isn't really concerned about looking for that defensive set. His teammates have beads, and they can get away. From there, he's looking to amplify the damage by way of the Sunder, and he's not going to get punished for it, which is my main point, which is why I like the pickup.
I agree with you. I think the Sunder pickup does very, very well. Now, a Horrific Emblem would be excellent into SPL Gatekeepers draft, because of that attack speed slow that comes with it. Now, the problem is that Venenu has that slow immunity on his Zapparate, so it's not going to be particularly effective against him in terms of the slow, but that attack speed slow would be incredibly relevant. Either way, I have no problem with the Sunder pickup for Shadow Q. I agree with you. It kind of augments that early damage and late game damage, but he doesn't really need that meditation. Now, not great on supports early on because it scales off of levels.
Right.
Shell would have been okay here, but maybe not that effective. I really think it was between Sunder and Horrific Emblem, and Sunder probably the better call right now just because of how strong it is throughout the game.
Exactly, and Horrific Emblem, if he does want to go that a little bit later, it winds up being more powerful because you're cutting down attack speed on weak characters. Basic attacks obviously do more damage towards the late game, so you're going to be afraid of them a little bit later on. Skilladon, the only non-basic attack character on SPL Gatekeepers for the most part. Even Neil Ma wants to stack up that passive. Shadow Q lands a stun. Day to remember in a little bit of trouble. Here comes Mirage, making the flank down the middle. And he's not going to be able to find it, pulling one into the damage out of the Ho Yi. But a great stun coming out from Skilladon makes the separation apply and happen. SPL Gatekeepers escape what could have been a bad situation, all off of the damage and the control from their jungler.
Frenzy popped by Neilma, and they're going for the Gold Fury, already getting low. Supernova is going to confirm it for SPL Gatekeepers, but they're losing the fight.
And that's going to be 2 already dead on the side of the Gatekeepers. Flashpoint trying to get more. Skilladon answers back, taking down Mirage. Big kill right there. But still, Flashpoint not done just yet. The blind ricochet! Subs takes him down. It's 3 kills for Flashpoint. Beautiful play.
Sheikah able to escape just barely. My man has literally about 35 HP there. So SPL Gatekeepers get the objective, but lose the team fight afterwards. And they just didn't have enough a chance to use that sustain. It was one of those options where you could tell they wanted to use those heals from Skilladon, but they knew their window was limited, so they couldn't wait for 2 or 3 rotations of that heal. Instead, they had to push it right away. If they were able to sit back and heal up a little bit more, that team fight probably goes in SPL Gatekeepers' way because of how low Sops and Sheikah were. But again, going back to that first initiation, Mirage played that beautifully. Oh, Neilma caught in a bad spot. There's a setup from Sheikah, and he's going to fall. Sops able to notch his 3rd kill early on.
Kiki does get the teleport, but I don't know if he wanted to get teleport right on in there, and Flashpoint don't take advantage of it. Portal Demon going to go down here, likely to the hands of Flashpoint, unless Kiki can just make the play. Can't, walk away. So, the famous Dry Bear quote, at what cost? The Gold Fury goes down to SPL Gatekeepers, but not in their favor. Flashpoint go ahead and secure the team fight after the fact, get the Portal Demon, and now have tied things up completely even here in our 13th minute.
Venenu going for the Zeros build in that mid lane. Got to give some shout outs to the Dignitas mid laner who's really brought these auto attack gods back into the mid lane. Sol, Kronos, Elite loves them both. maybe even a little bit of Freya. We heard a lot of his Freya mid, but never got a chance to see it at SMITE Masters. But this Book of the Dead pickup right after the boots, giving you a ton of power, that's 100 power, as well as a good amount of HP, and that HP shield that you get whenever you're at full health. Any life steal that you receive from your auto attacks or abilities is going to transform into a pretty big shield. So Ven's going to be pretty difficult to kill, even for a good dive composition like Flashpoint have.
I like this item a lot, Ryan. When you look at it, the level 2 Bancroft, which you sit in for a while because of the, it winds up being about 1,400 gold looking for the Book of the Dead after the fact. It's 60 power and 8 lifesteal. You can sit on that tier 2 for a while. So the build path isn't really punishing you, despite the fact that your second item is a little bit more expensive than you'd like. It's still got to give it being nice because that level 2 is there. The curve is just, it's a nice look. And when you are trying to accentuate your basic attacks, which is what Soul does, you're getting full value of that lifesteal. I like this pick.
Yeah, I agree with you. It synergizes very well with characters like Chronos and like Soul. And you can see Ven already getting a pretty big shield there.
Yeah.
And between that and the healing from Skilladon, the peel from Neilma and Kiki, it's going to be very difficult to lock down a character that it's already difficult to find a kill onto because of that Disapparate, having the slow immunity, and of course that Corporeal form where she's untargetable.
And I always like to see players sort of experiment with these characters. I mean, Soul is considered by a large majority of the community as just broken, unplayable, what is wrong? And here we just have these guys bringing her out and kind of doing different things. You're not going the standard build path. You're not going standard. And like we said before, standard is kind of not how you win these days. So you got to be able to shake it up just a little bit.
Anyone who thinks Soul is unplayable has not been paying attention. That's what I would say. Soul has had some good success in the mid lane, specifically for Flashpoint early, or towards the later stages of the spring split. Incon was the one to bring it out in the mid lane. Zeros has been doing it for a while as well. As you mentioned, I think she's kind of had a power shift from Hunter to mid after losing the Fatalis effect on her 3, but gaining some more sustain on that Radiance ability and losing some of that damage fall off from consecutive hits on Supernova. She's much more of a traditional burst mage, but also a siege mage. Can really really punish you in mid if you make a poorly timed rotation. Easy towers for this character, even before she gets good penetration online. Soul is definitely a character that has some serious viability in mid right now.
And it's one of those nice things that I like having Soul in the mid lane, or basic attack hunter or mage in the mid lane, excuse me, when you're going the Chang'e jungle. Because usually, yes, your hunter is the guy that takes down your towers, but usually amplified by your assassin. Whether you're Fenrir or Naja, you're going to be able to hit those towers really hard, and Chang'e or a alternative mage type jungle doesn't bring that. So when you can supplement that by way of your mid lane, it's really nice and winds up helping that equation that is your composition get balanced a little bit more appropriately.
And we saw Enix be ones who also played around this sort of double hunter, or someone with someone like Lobster on the Soul who played it a good amount as well. They just start sieging you at 20, 21 minutes.
Yeah, what are you going to
do? Your towers just melt, which is why I love this Frenzy pickup for Neilma that much more. Yeah. Makes it so that they can burn structures very, very quickly, burn objectives even quicker than they could before. And this is a composition that can do all those things very, very well. And it's kind of like the other offensive option outside of Sunder. You either get, if you want to go offense as a support, you either go Frenzy or you go Sunder. This Frenzy pickup, ever since it's moved back into being a relic after those late game options that it used to be, you can really do it pretty well.
Half HP on the Gold Fury. Frenzy popped by the guys on SPL Gatekeepers. That's the biggest difference between Sunder and Frenzy, is that Sunder is going to be more appropriate or more successful in blowing a particular player up, but Frenzy has more applications to it. You can use it to blow one player up, but you can use it to siege a tower, siege a Gold Fury, or in this case, help the team fight. Kiki, making the rotation from the short lane into mid, gets picked up a little bit, but he'll still continue towards the Gold Fury. Oracles go the way of SPL Gatekeepers, kind of accidentally. Your target actually going to be the big man himself, but SPL Gatekeepers finally looking to walk away now that Flashpoint have rotated as a full team.
That was a beautiful disarm there from ShadowQ once the Frenzy was popped by Neilma, just making sure the Data Remember wasn't going to get any value out of it, even in terms of burning down the support who just jumps right on top of him. I think that's one of the underlooked parts of Fafnir's kit. That disarm on his jump is so important in terms of what he can do, not only in situations like that, but the early laning phase. As soon as he hits level 2, he can get that advantage, immediately jump onto the Hunter, and then that's a couple seconds where that Hunter isn't auto-attacking your wave. Very easy to get lane control, courtesy of that ability.
18 minutes on the clock here. Flashpoint up 6-1 as far as the kills are concerned, but Everything else all even. The experience is tilted a little bit in the way of SPL Gatekeepers, 2600, 27 wave to wave. But at the end of the day, I think these players are really separated by half a level each, if that. So it's really not going to be too impactful by way of the numbers. This one is still up in the air.
The only one who's got a significant lead in levels is Kiki, and he's been doing a good job of proxy farming like you're seeing right here. Going behind the tier 1 tower, finding those waves.
Looking for the
he's
flank.
up about two levels right now.
Yeah, he's going to go ahead, get the slow on 2 players, get pulled into the tower. There he is, going to back off just a little bit. Terra making the late rotation after the fact. And the Gatekeepers just kind of knocking on the door.
But again, SPL Gatekeepers get that Terra ultimate out. That's such a big ultimate in terms of what it can provide to a team, not only when Terra's there, but when she isn't as well. So this Gold Fury pull that should be coming from SPL Gatekeepers soon is going to be a little bit easier to take.
And it's going to come from Flashpoint instead. Sops are going to drop the ultimate, bringing it down to 0.5% already. Nobody from Gatekeepers is even local. No vision either. This one's going to go the way of Flashpoint. Clean and easy. Nice call.
That's
really nice call.
So Data Remember backs, and Sops knows it, so immediately heads to the Gold Fury. That's got to be Data Remember saying, hey, they could be on gold, I don't know where Sops is. They could be on gold, I don't know where Sops is.
And Skilldon trying to make things happen here for his team, picking up the Portal Demon. Not going to be available. Flashpoint too tipped off. They're going to be walking here on the right side of the map. Skilldon now helping out his solo laner. He gets caught up a little bit, but no big deal. This is where they're going to look for the tower, Ryan. Right away, just a little bit of push. The frenzy, the basics, and it's gone. That's what this composition is about. Tier 1 tower down. Gatekeepers pick up 500 gold.
And again, going back to that Gold Fury pull real quick from Flashpoint, because that's so key in terms of keeping them in this game now that we're transitioning towards the mid game. Great job by Sheikah and crew and Mirage to keep everyone from SPL Gatekeepers in mid, but they lose the Portal Demon to SPL Gatekeepers.
Ooh, nice pull from Mirage. Gonna grab the entirety of the team. Skilldon low, but the heals are helping out. Basics on the Dante LaFargo. Skilldon's gone. Mirage finds his 3rd kill of the match. Still continuing on. Flashpoint gonna step off of the gas real quick. They take the life of the jungler for the Portal Demon. That's probably about even. And that look going to be a little bit of an invade as well. And they get Data Remember's beads as he tries to avoid Sheikah's damage. Tough stuff there.
Mirage gonna have to dash out of danger as Kiki took the portal back in to try and chase everybody down, doing a lot of damage to Sheikah and Sop as Neomod comes dashing in, trying to find these kills.
But the flank from behind, Flashpoint coming, and SPL Gatekeepers don't notice it. Big root out of the solo lane Guardian. Kiki under the tower, gonna die to the shots. Sheikah gets credit for it. Big assist from the structures. Banana and Data Remember want to get out of here. Neomod going to take them back. 2 players dead. Skilldon earlier on. Kiki just now getting a little separated from his team. Pushed up a little bit too far.
Just taking that level lead a little bit too seriously in that instance, where he's still up 2 levels on Dante LaFargo, but not high enough level to take that damage coming out of Sheikah, who's got quite a bit of penetration in that build now. He's got the penetration boots, he's got the Dynasty Plate Helm as well, working on what's going to be an Obsidian Shard, so can really shred through that magical protection that Kiki has gone for. He's got some from the Heartward Amulet and some from that Spirit's Robe, and while I love this Spirit's Robe pickup, there's not a lot of health in that build for Kiki overall. It's basically just that Heartward Amulet.
Banana misses the shot. Not that it would have helped much. I think the tower is still going to go down, but those minions stay alive because Venenu goes completely off the money with that ability. Now the tier 2 siege coming out from Flashpoint, teleport in from Kiki so cheeky, and that's going to be the full defensive stop coming out from the Gatekeepers. Flashpoint don't want to test their luck. They just push up the tier 1, and they'll take their 1,500 gold lead, excuse me, and walk away.
And this is exactly the last situation that we saw, but it was Gatekeepers chasing down Flashpoint and diving their tier 2 tower. This time a little bit more calculated and let them go after getting that tier 1 tower in mid. Flashpoint looking really good so far this game, FDOT. I mean, they've worked together well as a unit, and that's one of the things that usually takes a while for teams that are, you know, bringing a couple new members in, especially new members that haven't played at this level before. As you mentioned, Sheikah's been in the Challenger Cup for a while, as has Sops and Dante LaFargo, but they've never played at this SPL level. They participated in some relegations, yes, but on the defending SPL teams with the likes of Mirage and Shadowkeep is a little bit different. These guys have played very, very well thus far. Sops in particular, 3-0-4 for this guy. Finds the 2v1 kill against Data Remember in lane. Really impressive play out of the Hunter.
And the most impressive thing, I mean, sure, like ricochets from Hou Yi, good job. It's the call in the Gold Fury. Like, just a heads up play to really notice, hey, he's gone. We have this. This is ours. Being coming in not just as a rookie, but a really fresh. We know Shake his name, and Sobs and Dante LaFargo are more of those the quieter players down in the challenger scene. But having that confidence to come onto a team with players like Shadowq and just Mirage and just sort of walk on and make those calls, that's impressive to me.
I agree with you, and that's just making use of what's given to you, because you've got a veteran like Shadowq on your team that can understand that, with the opportunities that are presented to him and taking advantage of those. Really, really impressive thus far.
A little bit of damage in the mid lane. I want to bring up one of the interesting intricacies of the solo lane specifically and how it works out. So Kiki is playing against a Guardian, a magical dealing player, which opens up the world for Neilma as far as his build is concerned. You want those 3 aura items: Thebes, Gauntlet of Thebes, Sovereignty, and the Heartward. Well, since Kiki is going up against magical, that opens up the options for Neilma, because now Neilma doesn't have to build the Heartward. Kiki can build it instead, and now we're going to see some interesting itemization choices from the support player. I really like just that small intricacy and how that interacts and works out on the bigger battlefield.
Could be a Shield of Regrowth here. Skilladon's picked that up now in that 5th item slot for himself, or 4th item slot, I should say, since he's got the 2 starters between the Sands of Time and the Bumpus Mask. I agree with you. I think that it really can work out. Now, the backfire there potential is that Kiki isn't going to be with his backline, so they won't get that benefit from the Heart Rate Amulet that they usually would from a support, but usually it's not the mage that's hitting the backline, it's the mage hitting the frontliners. So as long as Kiki has it along with Neilma, then it's not going to be too bad, as well as the fact that it's more likely that someone like Skilladon will have that aura now. If he's going to be diving the backline with Kiki, then he would if Neilma were to have that Heart Rate Amulet. So there's definite trade-offs there. You have to be aware of where that mage is and make sure that Kiki's around.
Gatekeepers starting with the Gold Fury, already down to half HP. Frenzy pop, that means fight. Here comes Flashpoint, ultimate out of the soul, and this one's gonna go the way of FP. They steal it away.
Bad secure there from Vinin, who can't find it. Now Skilladon in some trouble, forced into the Aegis. Shadowq just able to jump out of that wild hunt. Neilma trying to chase him down, thought that last hit was gonna do it, but it wasn't enough damage.
Oh, that was a misplay out of the support. Neilma winds up short, doesn't get the kill. Gold Fury goes the way of Flashpoint, now leading by a nice, strong 3,000 gold. SPL trying to pick up what they dropped with the tier 1 tower. That's only going to be 500 of it, however. It'll bring the lead south of 3,000, but still very close at 28.
That's unfortunate there. Again, that's partially on Venenu, partially on SPL Gatekeepers, not really knowing if they want to keep that Gold Fury leash or if they want to drop it. In that scenario, I mean, Supernova's good secure. It should be securing over the Huyi Suns. That's really tick damage. It's not very, very impactful. So that should be secured, but if you're not confident in it, Soul, again, not the greatest at confirming those. More about burning, right. Just let it go. Just take the fight. That fight was going SPL Gatekeepers' way. Flashpoint did a great job of dropping it. Great Waxing Moon coming out of Skilladon. Mirage got hit out of nowhere.
Big setup coming out from the guys on Gatekeepers. That's the kind of play they need if they want to wrestle back control of this game. Portal Demon does go the way of the blue team. However, and that Gold Fury fight really showed off the problem that I mentioned earlier with this draft, Ryan. Not a lot of hard crowd control, which translates to not a lot of strong zoning potential. Famana can go out there and just sort of stomp around, but you don't have a driving strike. You don't have an Osiris tether to really just stop enemies from walking into you and killing your dudes.
Sure, and you also have a lot of people who are going to get away with very low health because you don't have the lockdown to ensure that they're going to die. That's exactly what happens to Shadowq there. Just not enough damage from the 3 strikes from Neilma's ultimate. But SPL Gatekeepers do a good job of taking whatever they can after they lose an objective like that. They get that tier 1 tower and left. We saw how quickly this composition can burn objectives like that. And then they immediately head over, get that pick on the Mirage, and pick up the Portal Demon as well. So not all bad for them. And again, this is where this composition is going to start to really shine. We're 27 minutes in. Venenu still has a little bit of pen now with that flat pen. Would like to see him pick up an Obsidian Shard, though, just because that amplifies his tower damage a little bit more. Maybe Skilladon could be the one to go for Spear of the Magus. While it doesn't synergize beautifully with Chang'e, she does have low cooldowns, can start to strip away those protections, and then allow Venenu to come in and clean up with that Obsidian Shard. Could be some good synergy there, though. It looks like Skilly's going for an Obsidian Shard of his own, which isn't a bad thing either, just making sure that he's doing optimal damage at all times. Would really like to see Ven pick up that Ob Shard, though, just for the tower damage alone.
It's the same idea when you see Hunters pick up the Titan's Bane. They're just going to hit the tower a little bit stronger. Percent penetration so strong. Fire Giant goes down. That one's not stolen. Belts around the Gatekeepers, and they're on full retreat. Nice snatch away. That was a snatch and grab.
That was incredibly fast. And again, it just comes down to this is what the composition for SPL Gatekeepers does. They burn objectives. If they want to if you want to team fight them, fine. We'll team fight a little bit. We're not too worried about team fighting though, because even if we go even or a little bit behind and you have to back up and just reset because your health is low, we're going to get every objective we can on the map faster than you can react. That's exactly what happens there. Fire Giant goes SPL Gatekeepers' way just because of how much damage they do to the objectives.
Almost a half hour of play here, folks, and Gatekeepers have basically tied up what Flashpoint took away from them. Gatekeepers had kind of intangible control of the match. Everything was even, but they seemed to be in the driver's seat. And then Flashpoint snatched away that Gold Fury, and that was the tangible, I can look at the gold difference and say that the red team was in the lead. But Gatekeepers make the right decisions after the fact and wind up tying things up. And now with the Fire Giant, Ryan, looks like they're going to siege up this mid lane. The ultimate, not good. Skilldon just drops it.
I feel like this is the perfect time to bring up that it's Skilldon's birthday. Happy birthday to him. Hope he has a good one, my guy. Pittsburgh native. Gotta give some shout outs to him there. And while that ultimate might not have been on the mark, I'm sure that he's going to get better ones throughout the day there.
Yeah, I mean, he's just looking like he's sleep. Just not making it happen right here. Now, without that waxing moon, can SPL Gatekeepers still make the siege?
I think so. I mean, they've got the Fire Giant, and as if there wasn't enough objective damage before, that Fire Giant can make it that much better. They'd remember being the one to poke down that tower a little bit. And they still got the heals from Skilldon. Skilldon also has a good amount of CDR between the Shield of Regrowth and the Sands of Time. So he's going to look. The Waxing Moon's already halfway ready to go.
Sure. Yeah, he's going to be ready. And this is SPL Gatekeepers just kind of treading water until they have that basically backup available. And just trying to weave these basics in wherever possible. Nice stun coming out from the Terra player there. And there's the Frenzy. That means it's time to go. Tower's still alive, but Mirage on the right side taking care of Data Remember. Nice jump forward from ShadowQ as well, forcing out the beats from the Hunter. And that's the result, man. SPL Gatekeepers tried to tread water, but Skilldon really shouldn't have dropped that ultimate. I don't know if it was a mistake or if he was going for something that he didn't reach, but definitely you can see the impact here on the left side.
But now they have it ready to go for this reinitiation.
Without
Flashpoint.
Kiki's and Neilmaz.
That's true, but no ultimates available for Flashpoint, but Sops finds Neilma, but immediately ShadowQ gets responded there. Everyone from Flashpoint pretty low right now, but Skilldon's here with a sustain for SPL Gatekeepers.
Just a little window is all they need. Look at those basics just tearing down the tier 2, 1,500 in the pocket for SPL Gatekeepers for that objective, winding up about 1,000 just beneath it above their opposition.
But the Gold Fury is going to push that a little bit higher up. Sheikah does have that ultimate and could get in to steal this away, but not there quite in time, so it's going to go SPL Gatekeepers' way. Data Remember caught out a little bit, just able to dash out of that Wind Siphon there from Mirage.
And Kiki gets away. A little bit worried that he might have... You see teams make that mistake sometimes where somebody's almost in trouble, then they go to save, and the savior is the one that falls down for no reason. But Kiki tanky enough to deal with it. This, a little bit risky here. Sobs and Mirage available. Portal Demon gets leashed. I thought Flashpoint were just going to take that and say thank you. But now the rest of SPL Gatekeepers show up. They force the ultimate out of Mirage. That's a big win.
And that of Dante the Fargo as well. Great patience coming out of SPL Gatekeepers. It goes their way. Sop stunned out by Skilldon as well. Look at how much damage Skilly's doing just with that ultimate one. That does half of Sop's HP.
He's top damage for his team right now in the Chang'e jungle. You mentioned it. Late game just gets more and more crazy.
And she doesn't even have a Rod of Tahuti yet. Still sitting on that Sands of Time. Still has another item to go. And that Rod of Tahuti, of course, just making it, not only does it give you a lot of power, but it expands upon the power you already have with the passive. So Skilldon going to get even stronger with that item pickup. Everyone from SPL Gatekeeper just continues to get stronger. The only one who's really falling off right now is Kiki, but his job isn't to really do that much damage. He's just there to be an annoyance in the front line and make it difficult for Sheikah and Sops to do damage to his backliners, so his damage doesn't really matter.
Still picking up that Masamune. Gonna have that 50 power.
And the protections from it as well, making sure that it's kind of like the opposite of Thor passive, where Thor gets damage depending on how many people is around him of the enemy team. Masamune gives you protections based on how many are around you. So whenever Kiki goes diving into that back line, he's going to get more protections the more people that are surrounding him.
He's also going to go fast.
That's true. Some extra movement speed.
Got to go zoom.
Because Vamana definitely not fast enough.
When it comes down to it, you need that speed to be able to keep up with people in the ultimate. So I like that choice. Kiki getting blown up though. No speed's gonna help him here. Sheikah takes him down for number 10. This could go the way of Flashpoint as Sobs takes out the jungler as well. 3 players exiting towards the solo lane, but the chase is on. Frenzy's not doing anything when everybody's retreating. Venenu picks up one with the ultimate almost on accident. But the members of SPL Gatekeepers reaching and can't find it. Flashpoint wind up on top in that exchange, looking for the Fire Giant. Venenu's here, no ultimate available. Fire Giant's half HP and the call is made. Give it up. Flashpoint take the lead. Fire Giant, excuse me, in their hands. They're down 2K gold, but that Fire Giant certainly evens things up.
So that's what Nox does better than any mage in the late game. Is if a warrior is out of position, you get to kill them easy. You just that silence root combination where Kiki is sitting there for what, 2.5, 3 seconds.
Forever.
Takes, you know, over 35% of his HP from that combo alone, plus every piece of damage that Sops is putting into him as well. Beautiful setup there by Sheikah. Then makes a big play, killing Mirage there. Mirage was not ready for the burst out of that Soul mid laner. Had both his beads and Aegis available. That 2 ult combination, 100-0 Mirage. And it only hit him twice or 3 times with that Supernova. So that's how you can really tell that this Soul is viable in that mid lane mage role. It does bring that burst damage in the late game, but it didn't matter because 4 members of Flashpoint were still alive. Great play there out of Flashpoint, just recognizing that Kiki was a little bit too out of position.
Thank you for bringing it back. I'm sitting here going, how long is this mid laner going to talk about mid lane?
That was a hot play, man. He 180 through the 2, dropped the ult.
And then his team lost a team fight, lost to Fire Giant.
Yeah, it's because my stupid Soul laner got picked, man. Not my fault.
Mid lane action translating over here to the dual lane as Flashpoint destroy the tier 1 and the tier 2, evening up that gold deficit that I mentioned earlier, 2,000 in total for the tier 1 and the tier 2. And now with the Fire Giant still around their waists, except for Mirage. They're going to keep on keeping on. You know, why doesn't Mirage have a Fire Giant buff?
It's because he got killed by Venenu when he made a hot play by doing a 180 2 ult combination, 100-0'd him, but threw the Aegis that Mirage had, but didn't use because he didn't expect it first.
What a play. Flashpoint now sieging up here in the mid lane. A little bit more defense, but Skeleton not a part of it. Jungle, but luckily for him, Flashpoint not making their move. Here comes Kiki with the counter aggression. Ultimate popping up, forcing Flashpoint off of the tier 2. Right now, you're just trying to waste time. How long can we make them wait with this Fire Giant doing nothing? But Kiki doesn't have that tool for a second time. It's up to somebody else.
Tier 2 tower's not that important right now. It's just a matter of protecting the Phoenixes, and as you mentioned, trying to waste Flashpoint's time to make it so they can get less Phoenixes in this push. Still 2 towers remaining on the right, but Flashpoint recognized those aren't that important. They need these Phoenixes.
I don't know if Venenu needed the beads there. He was stunned out, but the rest of the team was so far away. But that's better safe than sorry relic usage right there. So it kind of hurts to see that because I don't think that he needed to, but very, very difficult decision to be made. With that down, Flashpoint certainly know that the mid laner is going to be a little bit less slippery than he already is.
Still has that Aegis, but that doesn't really help you against Nox, whatever she lays down that Siphon Darkness. So, yeah, needs to be very, very far in the back for Venenu, who's done a good job of doing that so far this game. The only member of his team without a death so far, and that really speaks to his positioning.
Or the fact that this character has built-in immunity.
Why not both?
Hey, Skeleton has it too, and he's fallen down 4 times. So I think it is a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Venenu has transformed, I think, since coming from the Hunter role. The mid lane is just a much better pick for him.
Yeah, he's looked very, very comfortable, but his big picks seem to be coming from the gods that kind of have a little bit of Hunter in them. Chiron, of course, Soul being one of those as well. But you got to give shout out to his Vulcan. His Vulcan's really nuts.
Right.
So he's got a pretty wide god pull in that mid lane. That's something that usually takes some time to develop, and Ven's done a good job of getting that going early on in his mid-career.
And I maintain that you can put a Hunter in the mid lane, and it's a completely different position. You're leaning more on the abilities and the basics like a traditional mage would. Positioning is completely different, and the gameplay. I mean, I have talked to you enough. Mid lane is Grand Central Station. You always have to be on. Right now, players have to be on near the Fire Giant. Dante LaFargo getting a little bit deep, but able to dash right on back with that double thanks to the killing of the Monolith. Portal Demon here now, half HP. Crit's coming out from Data Remember. This is anybody's Portal Demon. It's leashed finally, and now looking for the fight. Sops drops the Sun. Kiki in trouble on the backside, coming to safety towards his team. Sops and Flashpoint confirm the Portal Demon, confirm the kill on a Skeleton. Sops looking for more. Sheikah going forward. Still, Kiki in trouble. Grabbed and toasted. Mirage gets kill number 4. Flashpoint, bad luck 13 in their kill column, but it's all gravy for them. Up 5,000 gold, plus the Portal Demon with Fire Giant about to spawn in 15.
And that's perfect timing for Flashpoint, who again just do such a good job of splitting that team fight up. Data Remember and Venenu are too far back right now because Kiki is in that front line trying to zone, but everyone just turns immediately onto Kiki, and then it makes it so he dies really, really quickly. Impossible for SPL Gatekeepers to continue the fight after that. Great job by Flashpoint, elongating that team fight, forcing Data Remember and Venenu back, and then focusing out Kiki and Skeleton, who wasn't able to get out of the crowd control coming out of FP. That's going to be that tier 2 tower right and the Fire Giant. Only these Phoenixes left standing to defend SPL Gatekeepers Titan.
Really like this look at a Flashpoint right here. New players surrounding ShadowQ and Mirage, and everybody's really turning up. 6-0-6 for the Hunter Sops. Not only has he done fantastic when it comes to objectives by way of securing them with his ultimate, he has good calls. We saw him as soon as Data Remember backs, he makes the call to go for the Gold Fury. We see him take the 1-on-2 fight over there in the long lane. I mean, it's very early on. This is relegation, but I think Sops is a guy that's here to make a name for himself, and I think we'll be talking about him.
I agree with you. I mean, he's top damage by quite a margin right now. He's up 6K on the next highest player. That's Venenu, and Soul just, throws damage out all over the place. You usually see Soul way above everybody else in terms of damage, but Sops is there, 6-0-6. Just bought a 3K pot.
Ooh.
So he's got plenty of damage ready to go for this next engagement.
And I like this move with the Odie bow here, the Odysseus bow. Not an item that we see purchased all the time, but instead a situational item. SPL Gatekeepers want to be grouped up, both for Neil Ma's auras and the heal out of Skeleton. There's a lot of reasons why the Gatekeepers want to be grouped up, and Flashpoint's Hunter Sops here looking to exploit that fact by going the chain lightning item here. Just another heads-up play from a player that I think is going to make a big impact.
And, he has a low base attack speed on the Hu Yi, one of the lower ones in terms of Hunters, so needs at least one basically dedicated attack speed item. Yes, the Iqbal does that for him.
He's got Uncle Faffy as well.
Sure, of course, that Coerce helping out, and that means that he's going to be basically capped on attack speed between that Coerce buff and the amount that he's built with his build. And then whenever you factor in the fact that the trade-off for Hu Yi is that he has very high base power, but low base attack speed, when you take away that weakness of low base attack speed, then it's pretty good.
ShadowQ with the hot stun. Pick out Kiki, so cheeky. Sheikah finds the ultimate on the right side of the Phoenix. Everybody fighting on the Gold Fury side of the map. Phoenix goes down. Easy peasy for Flashpoint. The Terra ultimate was used.
I don't know if that was necessary, though. Sheikah's ultimate did exactly what he wanted to do. It forced Data Remember back to base, and that was just a zone creator, a space creator, to make sure that Flashpoint was going to be able to get that Phoenix for free. But now that both Sheikah and Dante's ult are down, see, SPL Gatekeepers look a little bit more confident in defending this Phoenix.
Neil Ma just standing.
Yeah, Flashpoint's going to grab the wave and try and push up with it, but those are two pretty important ultimates they don't have available to themselves.
I like the purple buff still here around the waist of the two Guardians here on the side of Flashpoint, but I love Sheikah's use of that ultimate. It's Nox ultimate is very odd. It's big burst damage, look for the kill with it, right? But it also lowers the damage output of the opposition, so you want to start a fight with it. It's really tempting to look for that runaway kill because it's so long range, explodes, but using it for its sort of brand ability of the damage output, lowering the damage output, excuse me, is really important. And that's kind of what opened that window for that left side Phoenix.
I agree, but look at how much CDR he has. He already has it up again, so they can just do the exact same game plan.
That's what Sheikah's doing right now. Just standing here waiting. The wave completely annihilated. Dante LaFargo's ultimate up as well. Lamenting the use of it beforehand, but well, I guess if it's up, it doesn't matter. Flashpoint now, poised, making their aggression. Can't find the stun as Shadow.
But they only have about 30 seconds left on this Fire Giant. Sops gets poked out a little bit there from Skeleton. Sprint is popped from ShadowQ. There comes the ultimate, and again, Data Remember is the one who eats it.
Yeah, Hunter's gone. That's what you want to do. Eliminate the damage deal out of the conversation. But it's all about the team fight. Down goes the Phoenix. Flashpoint with ShadowQ at the helm will always be an objective-minded team.
Now, Wild Hunt comes out from Data Remember, but it's not enough to stop that third Phoenix from falling. Now all three down. Flashpoint playing very, very well as a team. Cool as a cucumber, and just gets all three.
Listen, so SPL Gatekeepers, I can't believe we haven't even mentioned it, but it's obvious. This is Oxygen Supremacy, the team formerly known as Oxygen Supremacy from relegations. Kiki, he'll be all right. And they're the ones that had a fantastic stretch. This is not a slouch of a team whatsoever.
This is an upset for Flashpoint if they win this game. I mean, this is a team that, like I mentioned right before we came into this game, SPL Gatekeepers, yes, they're the Challenger Cup team, but they're the one that I think everyone is expecting to make it into the Pro League.
Yeah.
Flashpoint really lamented last season near the bottom, was not very successful. Then they made some roster changes, dropped some of their bigger names such as Incon and Xenotronics, get a couple new members. They're looking great.
Sometimes you need that fresh talent, those newer players to really come out. And you know, honestly, I had the joke last year that, well, honestly, all good jokes come from a little bit of truth, right? Where Shadow Q was kind of Professor Shadow Q, and all four of those players surrounding him had a reason sort of to go back to school and learn a little bit. This is a different style now. This is just a team that's ready to embrace rookies and look for the wins. And honestly, this is a better Flashpoint than I saw the majority of last split, man.
I agree with you. I mean, this is a team that lost to this exact roster of SPL Gatekeepers at the Gauntlet.
Badly.
And it was not close.
Badly.
It was not close. And in a lot of that, and game one in particular, I remember Xenotronics got bullied pretty hard in lane between Data Remember and Skilodon. And look at this game. Stops 6-0 and 6. And
control.
Remember, this is actually a sub for them. It was supposed to be Benny Q playing Hunter. This is a guy who stepped in pretty late for Flashpoint, from my understanding. So really showing up here today.
Always got to be ready. You don't know when you're going to get that call, and when you get it, you have to not just take it, you have to take it and run with it. Sops here, top damage by 8,000 damage, 6-0 and 6 as well. Just incredible performance so far. Right itemization, right choices. Really love what I'm seeing. Waiting for this moment. Left side Phoenix respawns. Flashpoint biding their time.
I also really love this double sprint pickup for Flashpoint. Sprint is one of those items that I think was heavily underrated for the majority of Season 4. Gives Sops that Fatalis effect.
There's the speed coming out from the Terra ultimate as well. Left bird goes down. Kiki just walking in the middle of everybody, but it's too late to do that. Gets jumped on. Shaker deletes him. It's a 5-on-4. Flashpoint still looking for the win here, but cautiously. Not ready to just dive into the throne room. I like how cautious they're being here.
They're taking a lot of damage, though, between Benadu. Shadow Q just able to jump out of danger in time. Good ultimate from Sops, giving him that zone as well. So Flashpoint, they get a kill. They get that left Phoenix on the respawn. And now look at them using that sustain from Dante LaFargo on the Terra, who's got that Lotus Crown as well. A little bit of extra power between that and the Void Stone. Getting everyone healed back up. Shadow Q is already half HP again.
Yeah, looking for another shot at it. Flashpoint on the left side of the map, still trying to decide where to go. All three Phoenixes are down and won't be up for a while. Now, pushing up forward. Don't forget they do have access to a number of abilities, but no ultimates. Big crits on the Shadow Q. And Flashpoint still playing it safe here, Ryan. They can't find the entranceway. The basics coming out of Data Remember and Skilodon's long, the radius of those abilities are just making it too dangerous for MP to come on in, unless you just delete Skeely. Sheikah with another big hit.
Sheikah finds one more, 5-0 and 9 for the mid laner. Flashpoint's gonna commit towards the Titan. SPL Gatekeepers fall in their first game here in relegations.
Yeah, they've got to keep the gate open for themselves.